All right, it is tariff time. It's always tariff time. Every day is tariff time. But hey, what are you going to do? Let's talk about it. So, the news of the tariff situation as of, I'm recording this on April 10th, and this article is from yesterday, April 9th at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we also have some fresh news from just this morning. First, we're going to start with the news as of kind of where we're at as of yesterday evening. This is from the BBC. Retreat or negotiating strategy. Trump steps back from all-out trade war. So, for days, Donald Trump and his White House team have insisted that they were fully committed to their decision to impose sweeping reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries. They even derided a report on Tuesday that said that the president was considering a 90-day pause, news that triggered a brief stock market surge. But now that the pause on higher tariff rates, with a few notable exceptions, is a reality, the reordering of the global economic order is on hold, and Trump's promise of a golden age of American manufacturing will have to wait. The White House has said that going big on tariffs and then hitting the pause button before entering negotiations with individual countries was the plan all along. Even though, like, this entire week they were like, there's going to be no 90-day pause. There's no negotiations. There's no negotiating here. Nope, none at all. And they blinked. They blinked. Sorry, MAGA, this isn't them playing 4D chess. We've had more than 75 countries contact us, and I imagine after today there will be more. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters shortly after the announcement. Yeah, they're really bragging about that part. That's all they keep spitting out. During the Scott Bessent interview yesterday, he you could have played a drinking game with it and you would have been sloshed every time he brought up the 75 countries. The problem is, you guys were just saying all week, yeah, screw these countries. We don't care. We're doubling down, no negotiations. And then you blinked. I'm kind of glad you blinked, but you blinked. That framing from the White House is not surprising, of course, and it's difficult to ignore the investor panic, tumbling bond market, and growing course of Republican criticism and public disapproval that preceded the announcement. So it was a strategic retreat in the face of unexpected resistance, or yet another example of Trump's art of the deal negotiating strategy at work. So yeah, I don't think this article really clearly stated it, but Trump essentially put a 90-day pause on all tariffs except for on China. And it's not like a full pause on the tariffs. He took the ridiculous reciprocal amounts that he came up with based on trade deficit divided by whatever the heck, and he brought those down to 10%. So we're at 10% across the board with all countries but China. We're at still 140 or 180%. I don't 104 to 180%. It's somewhere in that range. Once you're past 50%, 100%, it doesn't matter anymore. It's essentially an embargo. It didn't take long for Trump aides, many of the same people who said he would never back down, to fan out and celebrate the president's move. Trade advisor Peter Navarro said Trump's tariff situation unfolded exactly the way it should. They just say they're so good at just PR. And not even it shouldn't be good, but so many people are going to run with this and they say it's their plan. And they say it's a good thing, and people just say, yeah, that's their plan. That's a good thing. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here. Press Secretary Caroline Gaslighting Levitt told a crowd of gathered reporters, the entire world is calling the United States of America. They were less clear about the details of Trump's tariff suspension, announced via a post on his Truth Social website. Did the reprieve and higher tariffs applied to the EU, where Mexico and Canada, which had avoided the original 10% baseline tariffs, somehow now included, were tariffs targeting specific sectors affected? Ultimately, the White House provided some clarity on these questions, but for hours, U.S. trading partners were left to scrutinize Trump's social posts and glean details from answering to questions shouted by reporters at press gaggles. On Wednesday afternoon, Trump acknowledged that the markets had looked pretty glum and that people were getting a little queasy, a reflection that undercut some of the bravado he expressed over the past week. Could hint at the real reason for his tariff change, of course. Yeah, remember when Oh, wait. Okay. Never mind. They're about to mention it. Earlier in the day, he was on True Social urging people to be cool and promising that everything is going to work out. And on Monday, he lashed out in what he called Panicans, a party based on weak and stupid people who weren't patient with his efforts. In the end, it was Trump who made an abrupt change of course. He insisted, however, that his tariff announcement was one that had to be made, and that any economic disruptions reflected a sickness that had been allowed to fester in the American economy. Democrats, meanwhile, painted a less rosy picture. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Trump of governing by chaos. He is reeling, he is retreating, and that is a good thing, he said. In the end, the thought process behind Trump's decision may not really matter. The reality is that the U.S. is now making nice, or at least nicer, with nations that had faced a retaliatory trade fire. Even though Trump is still imposing a 10% across-the-board tariff that by itself would have been huge news just a few weeks ago. Yeah, like, this is still 10% across the board. Like, it's crazy. Like, they've turned up the heat so much, and I don't mean this in a good negotiating 4D chess way. They've turned the heat up so much that they can just turn it down a little bit, and everyone's like, oh, thank God, we're saved, even though, like, we're still, like, it's still in just a bad place. It is enough of a step down for stock markets to bounce back, however, and Trump is now leaning into a trade war with China, which he hit with 125% tariffs, which, you know, like, once you're past 100, man, like, it doesn't matter. You've essentially embargoed each other. Like, well, what do you want me to tell you? That will have global economic repercussions of its own, but it's more in line with the recent American foreign policy, including that of Democratic President Joe Biden, as it seeks to constrain Chinese ambitions. The big unknown, however, is whether Trump's actions over the past week, setting allies scrambling and threatening the established global order, will have made such a strategy more difficult to pursue. And, like, we are the antagonizers here. We are the gaslighters here. We started this trade war, and then we keep saying it's China that's escalating, that it's these other countries who do reciprocal tariffs. They're escalating. Like, no, let me bully you, and you just sit there and take it. Like, I would stake so much on this, and you can call me a CCP communist shill all you want, but we could have fair, reasonable negotiations with China. They are willing to negotiate. We are the ones that are not willing to negotiate. Like, that's my takeaway from it. And if you've been reading this shit every day for as long as I have, you would probably come to the same conclusion. The big unknown, however, okay. The big unknown, however, is whether Trump's actions over the past week, setting allies scrambling and threatening the established global order, will have such a strategy more difficult to pursue. And in 90 days, when Trump's pause expires, this week's economic drama and uncertainty could begin all over again. So, yeah. Yay. We're going to have to deal with this all over again in 90 days. Great. And this is the breaking news as of this morning. The EU has also blinked. The other day, I think yesterday, they announced retaliatory measures over the U.S. I was just seeing if I could find what those exactly were in a headline because I can't recall off the top of my head. But so they were going to do their retaliatory reciprocal measures against the U.S. and then once Donald Trump blinked and said, all right, we're bringing everything down to 10%, they also blinked and they have paused their retaliatory measures against the U.S. Now, I am annoyed by that because you're just emboldening Trump. Like, appeasement doesn't work, Europe. Respectfully, you should know that the best. You're emboldening this guy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made the announcement today after the U.S. president made the shocking decision to implement a 90-day freeze on the hefty tariffs he had just imposed on dozens of countries. She said on a post on X, "We took note of the announcement by President Trump. We want to give negotiations a chance while finalizing the adoption of the EU countermeasures that saw strong support from our member states. We will put them on hold for 90 days. A relief rally washed over battered global stock markets in the wake of Mr. Trump's humiliating U-turn, with the FTSE 100 soaring by more than 6% shortly after trading began. However, Mr. Trump ratcheted up the pressure on China. Okay, here we are, immediately hiking the tariff on Chinese imports to 125%, up from 104%. Again, At this point, it doesn't matter. It literally just does not matter how much higher they go. Like, it's already essentially trade has been halted. Beijing slapped 84% tariffs on U.S. imports in return and has now hinted further countermeasures as the trade war between the world's top two economies continues to escalate. All countries will still face Mr. Trump's, what he calls his baseline 10% tariffs. So there you have it. It's crazy. Like, a lot of this is, it's trade deficit. It's trade deficit. The one with China, they're like, yeah, we buy so much more from China than China buys from us. Like, yeah, no shit, okay? China is a manufacturing powerhouse. We aren't. We are a consumer economy. We are a consuming powerhouse. And we are just that much richer. So, like, I'm sorry that poor little Vietnam can't afford to buy the same amount we buy from them. Like, that's just not possible. They're not as rich as us. They're not even close. So, for the average American, this is actually kind of good. This is how you get your cheap goodies. Like, we don't have a job problem. We have a wage problem. And we're already nearing a labor shortage because, first, of the mass deportations. And look at how we're trying to address that. You can put your eye on Florida and probably some other red states at this point. They are trying to pass child labor laws saying, like, yeah, 14-year-olds can work overnight now on school nights and they can work as long as, like, as many hours. Like, okay, we're just bringing back straight child labor. And it's so frustrating because we don't have the manufacturing base. We don't have the infrastructure. This is the world that we, as the United States, built. You might not be a fan of it, and it is very admirable to want to bring back some manufacturing to a degree, but this isn't how you do it, okay? And like, all these people getting riled up about the trade deficit probably even haven't even heard or knew what a trade deficit was until like last Tuesday. Like, even if everything goes and we magically get all these great deals, you think you're going to see any of this? You think you're going to see a single thing? There are 13 billionaires in Trump's administration. Trump is a billionaire. They don't have your interest in mind. They're looking to line their pockets. Even if we win this trade war, it's not like you're going to get like free healthcare or anything, or a better minimum wage or anything like that. Like, these are billionaires. This is why they are against increasing the minimum wage. This is why they are against unions. Billionaires, these people control our administration. These are the people that have been buying politicians for decades to make sure that we don't get things like affordable, free healthcare, a living minimum wage, a right to unionize everywhere, a free education. And now they are in our government. Now they own our government. And we still have people out here playing defense for them. Like, wake up, okay? All these material failures aren't because of our trade deficit with China. All this pain, economic pain you're feeling, has nothing to do with our trade deficit. It has everything to do with how our government, it has been running domestically. No free healthcare. Expensive. Number one cause in the world of bankruptcy is medical debt. Our minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. Our infrastructure gets a C-. Okay? And now we're bringing back the coal industry and getting rid of a bunch of environmental regulations so that they can pollute our air and pollute our water. Oh. And again, I'm not against tariffs across the board. I am all for strategic tariffs. Incentivizing countries to come back and bring manufacturing here strategically, build the manufacturing base, the industrial base, the infrastructure to support that base slowly over time, and strategically implement your tariffs as you go. That would be a much better solution. You think China became a industrial manufacturing powerhouse overnight? No, it took them like 30 years. And that was with a central planned, a authoritarian communist government controlling everything. Oh, geez. Like, if I was doing this, I would be building up the industrial base meticulously, strategically. The jobs I would be bringing back here would be union jobs because I would prop up the NLRB and I would have a livable minimum wage. But even if we do bring back auto manufacturing, it's going to be low paying jobs, no unions, dangerous conditions, or the factories they bring back are all going to be automated. Like, what are we talking about here? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.